Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Clue Crew podcast. My name is Katie, Nancy Pants. I'm here with Professor Hotchkiss's TA, Maddie,
Hey.
and Hurricane Sunny, Allison, has returned this week.
Yay, hello.
Welcome back, Allison. We love you.
Thanks, me too.
So, the game of the week this time around for the hashtag Clue Crew playthrough has been the Deadly Device. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week. What are y'all's relationship with this game?
I feel like this is a very middle of the road for me game.
Same.
There's a lot that I really like about it, but there's also a lot that's just nothing bad. It's just, it's nothing that's super grabbing.
Yeah, I agree. This one has always kind of floated towards the middle of my list of, favorite to least favorite games. It's always somewhere in the middle.
So for me, again, with the addendum that I have not finished this game in this playthrough, but going off the last time I remember playing it, I actually really do enjoy this game a lot, and I think it's because for me, what I like a lot of the times the most about the Nancy Drew games in general are the puzzles. And this is, I think, a lot of really kind of intricate and different puzzles that are well integrated within kind of the plot line, in my personal opinion. And there are also lots of kind of cool codes and stuff like that. So I really enjoy it, and I was really excited to go in and play this. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen for me.
Yeah, busy week. It happens.
I will agree though with your statement about the integrated puzzles. I think that's something that especially the more newer games, it just grinds on my gears, is when a puzzle doesn't make sense in universe. It just takes you out of it.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like they've well integrated all of the puzzles within this game. Plus it was science-based, so that kind of makes sense.
Right. Yeah, the fact that it's at a literal science lab does make it easier to kind of seamlessly integrate puzzles that way. And another thing that's cool too, though, is how a lot of the quote-unquote puzzles in this game are actually just processes that you have to go through in order to attain a goal. You know, you have to create a circuit board, so therefore you have to use the photolithography lab, so therefore you have to use the chemicals to create the, you know what I mean? It's kind of a process in order to get there. And I think it's cool because that actually introduces a series of puzzles, kind of, all again to attain the ultimate end goal, which is kind of cool. When this game first came out, it was probably one of my favorites, for the first maybe year or so after it was released. And then I replayed it about a year ago, and I really didn't care for it. But this week, I liked it a little better again. So I don't know if it was just a weird headspace I was in. But I overall agree with you, Allison. It's pretty much middle of the road for me.
Yeah.
But I do like the puzzles.
Yeah. And I will say, I think this is actually a really good one to, an easy one to introduce people to. One of my best friends, she introduced her husband to Nancy Drew through this game. And he's also a science nerd anyway. So it worked. But I think it's a good one to kind of introduce because it is kind of middle of the road where it's got good puzzles, good storyline. It's a murder mystery. But it's nothing that's too out there.
Yeah, that's fair. Because sometimes I feel when people jump right in with Shadow at the Water's Edge for their first game, it can be a little overwhelming and put offish, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I think this would be a pretty good one to introduce people to. Another thing that is a point in this game's favor, I think, is that you actually do a lot of actual investigating.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same Snoopy way that the older games did, but it's just a lot of actual investigative work because you were hired to solve a murder mystery. So you're dealing with, alibis, you're questioning people, You're getting outside help from Deirdre, which we'll talk about that later, but absolutely iconic. Love it.
Yes.
And like, yeah, it's just really cool. You have to consult a lot of different people and collect resources to create evidence. Kind of like you were actually solving a murder case in real life.
Yeah, one of the things I've really noticed as we've been doing this playthrough and switching kind of really quickly between some of the older and some of the newer games is that it really does seem that the newer games are a lot more almost traditionally investigative, more focused almost, and tend to place a lot more emphasis on kind of your character interactions and then using that to drive some of the more realistic investigations, like you mentioned with Deirdre, and kind of tying in those kind of criminology aspects of it, kind of finding alibis for each of your suspects and so forth. So while there are still some of the same things that I think are more characteristic of the traditional games, there's also a heavier presence of those kind of aspects, which is definitely cool and different.
Yeah, I think with the
that's
older,
true.
I think with the older games, it is a lot more of like, not like just like not necessarily that the storyline just kind of happens to you. It's just like things become revealed almost like coincidentally. Whereas you're right, I feel like some of the newer games, they are a little bit more investigative where you're going after certain leads or evidence.
That's interesting that you say that because I actually kind of feel the opposite. I feel like in the older games, you had to snoop and explore and search and find
That's
the
true.
leads and the clues on your own. Whereas with what Maddie was saying in the new ones, how it is very character driven. So a lot of the time in the newer games, I feel like you'll just get a cutscene. You know, you have to go to a certain spot at a certain time, and it'll trigger a cutscene that kind of gives you your lead, if that makes sense. So
No, that's a good point.
in turn, it would be kind of more like that was a coincidence that just kind of helped Nancy along in the case. Like that happens a few times in Deadly Device. There's the one where the thing falls on your head. And you get trapped, right? So that's a scripted event. Also the one I think where Nancy's like, there's a noise coming from the lab or whatever, and you have to go talk to Ellie. And then when Mason is found at the Tesla coil. So those are just three examples of that in this game. I feel like they did that a lot more in the later games than the older ones. But I do also kind of see from the angle you were going for too, Allison, at the same time. So I guess it is kind of a balance, but it's in opposite ways for the older versus the newer.
So what are your thoughts on the characters in this game?
When I started playing, I was thrown because I remember the last time I played this that I kind of really enjoyed kind of laughing at Mason a little bit. And this time he just really irked me. Like everything he said, I was like, oh, you're one of those people. And I never wanted to have interactions with him. And so like the whole my general, I was like, maybe I just like totally misremember parts of this game. Of course, I love Ryan. She's great.
Ryan's the best.
Ryan is awesome.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I low-key love Mason. I really do. I don't understand why. Like I think it's a fairly unpopular opinion. Like I think most people feel the way you do, Maddie.
Here's the thing though, I used to love, like I strongly remember being like, oh my god, I love Mason. Like he's just so ridiculous. Like especially his whole long dialogue about him going on dates and like he's like, what's the point? Like just answer my questions, get it done. Why waste my time with you? But I don't know, I like something about it in this go through. I think it was how dismissive he was towards Nancy, and I think it might have just rubbed me the wrong way now, having kind of a little bit of different experiences with seeing that kind of happen. That it bothered me more, and so I was less. But it was definitely a 180 because when I loaded the game up, I was like, "Oh yes, time to go meet with my favorite, like sarcastic, horrible person." And then I was like, "Oh, I actually don't like you now."
That's so funny. See, I originally I just kind of embarrassingly thought Mason was funny because I was young and I didn't really fully grasp what an asshole he was. You know what I mean? Like I was like, how old? I was like 14 or something when this game came out. So I liked it originally because of the lack of experience, kind of like what you're talking about. But now it's like I see the cringiness. I see that he is genuinely just kind of an awful person, but I still enjoy talking to him. I don't know why. I just unabashedly enjoy his character, and I truly can't explain it beyond that. I'm amused by him. I like that little smirk that he gives a lot of the time. Like, sometimes he'll say something really rude or snarky, but then he'll give Nancy, like, this little grin, like, "Ha, you like that? I'm just being funny." You know? I'm not sure. It's kind of weird, but...
He's kind of like that, like, douchey guy that you really enjoy just, like, kind of bantering with, but it just stays at bantering, and then you're like, okay, you're kind of being a dick.
Yeah, yes. That's a really good way to put it. But if there's one thing we can all agree on, is that Ryan is absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
Like, go girl. I love her.
Even though we don't really get to much of Nico, like, the mere fact that his sweater is so precious, precious. I just had to let you guys know. That sweater makes him precious.
He's got a vibe.
That's something that Her Interactive should sell. You know?
Yes.
They're
Come on, give us what we want.
Right, they're trying to come up with all this crappy merchandise that nobody wants.
Come on, we don't want ugly Scopa cards.
Right,
we want Nico sweater.
Just recreate them from the game. Like, that's what I don't understand.
Yes!
Same. I was like, these look nothing like the ones in the game.
You're doing more work for yourself, and it's hurting you.
It's hurting you. God.
You don't have. Oh, okay.
That's how I feel about Midnight in Salem too.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if they even did the work though on that one.
That's fair.
On the group project.
Ooh, you're not wrong.
Everything's fine.
This podcast is gonna get taken down from YouTube by Her Interactive.
Lies and slanders.
Anyway. Yes, I do enjoy Nico's reindeer sweater. It's great. I'd love to own it in real life.
Yes.
I think it's kind of refreshing, though, that Her Interactive went from the angle for this murder mystery that everybody hated the victim.
Yeah.
You know? I really enjoyed that.
Interesting.
I think that's another reason why I kind of liked Mason a little bit more, is because he was so blatant and blunt about his dislike of the victim. You know, he's like, what, I'm supposed to pretend he was great now that he's dead? And it's just, I really like that line. That line has stuck with me.
It gave me Jeremy Hansen flashbacks, to be perfectly honest, in the Requiem.
True.
That's the whole time I could think. That's all I kept thinking about.
True.
But yeah, no, it definitely. Although I will say, again, now that we're talking a lot about Secrets Can Kill, they did also go that route with Jake.
True.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Huh.
Yeah,
very true.
There's like
but
no
Jake
sympathy for the
fully
dead.
Deserved it though.
Yeah, Jake deserved it.
That's true.
I wrote a really long analysis post about Jake, but I never published it.
Oh, gotta let us see it.
Yeah, I'll probably go back to it at some point. He's just literally one of my favorite, like, omnipresent dead characters in the series. Oh my god, he's incredible. Like, in a bad way. In a bad way. But...
Oh yeah, definitely.
We should probably save this for next week, but
yeah.
I'm still going to say it. But I feel like Jake is like the evil version of Sunny June. He's like if Sunny June just went off the rocker and then fully embraced his evil side.
Oh my god, you're so right.
Evil twin AU.
Yeah, he's the evil twin.
I love it. That's an excellent fanfic idea.
Oh.
If anybody wants to write it, hit us up afterwards.
Yeah, Sunny
Go ahead and write it, but then just post a link.
What was Rick Arlen's like evil twin character again?
Yuri Danner.
He's the Yuri.
That's great. Anyway, I do think it's kind of comical though, like just how blunt Mason is about it. It's like you're in the middle of a murder investigation. Like, I get it if you don't want to hide your feelings, but you're really gonna like sit here and be like, I wanted him dead. Like, somehow I just don't think that's the best way to go about this. Just be like, yeah, no, I never liked him, but I didn't kill him. You know?
Yeah. He goes hard.
Go big or go home.
I
Yeah,
do
exactly.
love though that despite the fact that all of them acknowledged that he was horrible, that there's also this kind of like nuance in how much they did respect him and his work.
Mhm.
Right.
And it's very interesting to see that duality of the dynamic play out throughout your interactions with
For
them.
sure.
Because even though they're very blunt about it, but at the same time, there's also like for everyone that worked with him, they're like, yeah, I mean, like he was horrible, but also you can't deny kind of what he created, and there's some measure,
Yeah.
almost kind of awe that the characters themselves do feel for him in somewhat of a positive light.
That's true. That's a really good point. Oh, what was up with, like, what was the resolution to the whole Mason and Ellie working on the side subplot? Like, what was that? Were they, like, selling off Nico's work or something?
My understanding of it, because this is the last thing I actually did in the game, was that they had created their own work. It'd been the same project that both of them had been put on, that Nico was not involved with. But Nico wanted to publish it for free because he thought it was going to have some wide implications, separate from his own work that also had very wide implications. And they had kind of been okay with that. But now that Nico is dead, Victor was planning to sell it to some corporation. And so they were trying to go behind his back and sell it first so that they got the money instead of Victor.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know why I never fully connected that plot line before.
I think I was very confused. It was just because I had gone and talked to both of them right after it happened. And so I got kind of a little bit, I think, more information rather than, I think when you wait a little later and different scenes have been triggered, I don't know if you get as much. But I also could be wrong.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I really do feel like this was one of the most obvious culprits in this series.
Oh my god. For real. I immediately, as soon as like you see him on the video of the phone, I was like, he did it. Like, I think
you mean the first 2 seconds of the game?
I think it was immediately. I was like, nah, he did it. Like, come on.
It's so obvious.
I did not have that experience playing it the first time, and I think it's just because I didn't know enough about like rendering and stuff back then. Not that I know a whole lot more now. But I will say, when you saw that video phone conference, in my head, I was like, oh, so we have to consider him an actual suspect. And then I also remember being confused when you went to call him again later and you didn't get the video feed.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, what an odd choice to show us the video call in the beginning. Like, why would you not just let it be a normal phone call?
Right?
And
then
just
after
have the big reveal of him coming to the office later. It would be way more impactful that way.
And you know what? They could have easily, the way they could have played that is Nancy could have figured it out before he got there. Like, right? That could have been cool for her to be like, I just got to catch him, but I know it's him.
Oh, that would have been incredible, dude. Oh, Allison, you would have made this game so much better.
I know. They should have consulted me, but it's fine.
There's only so much you can do. Dude, that would have been amazing. Like, you connect the final piece before he shows up, and then he shows up as soon as you figure it out. And so the entire time you're, like, sneaking into his office and working right underneath him.
Would have been so good.
Yeah, I think, like, before the game came out, I guessed it was going to be Victor for some reason. And then after the game came out and I was playing it, like, for some reason, I was like, I wiped my brain. I was just like, I want to play this with a clean slate. And so I was tossing around different culprit ideas and possibilities and stuff. But ultimately, I think I still knew, you know? It's just like, especially when he showed up in person. That's when you're like, okay.
Yep.
For me, what kind of gave it away was, and again, I know the plot heavily relies on it, but the fact that, like, right from the get-go, you know that Deirdre is the one that passed your name along. And I was like, this is real suspicious. Like, we already had that weird sus video call, and now you're telling me all these, like, very specific details that don't make sense in universe.
Yeah. I do
Um,
think it's cool though how
mhm.
they integrated that where, Deirdre was the one who gave you a reference and that's kind of the actual clue that
Yeah.
it's Victor because she gave her a bad reference. Because Nancy even calls it out in the game, she's like, I'm
Mhm.
surprised you gave him such a nice reference. And Deirdre's like, was it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So good. All right, well, since we're on the topic of Deirdre and Nancy in this game, I absolutely love them in this game.
Yes,
Like,
their
it is
dynamic
so
is
good.
so good.
Because this game is like the height of when they were developing from the enemies that they were in Alibi and Ashes to the kind of like begrudging partners that they were in the game that shall not be named. But so it's like for this one, you get the best of both worlds because they're still kind of like bantery and insulting towards each other, snarky. But at the same time, they're really genuinely working together and they're getting excited because they're working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
I just really love their development, okay?
No,
and
I
love
do too. I think
Deirdre's
they-
development especially.
Yeah, me too. Because I hated Deirdre because of the books. And
Mhm.
Alibi and Ashes, I still did not like her.
Right.
I didn't hate her, but I was just like, And then in
Yeah.
this one, I was like, okay, you know what? You're pretty good. I like you.
I know. It's just so cool what Her Interactive did to her character, and I will forever be thankful to them for it. The old Her Interactive.
I know.
They blessed us with the Deirdre development arc, and I love it.
I mean, slight side note, I feel like we gotta mention one of my favorite Joe lines of all time, when he's talking about Deirdre getting extra credit for working a case and complaining that is it what his art history teacher that he
Oh
like
my
solved a bunch
gosh.
of art theft.
Recover a stolen whatever. What
Vermeer,
artist was it?
I think it was a Vermeer, but I could have.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
so
it was
funny.
Vermeer. I just put that up in a post, that quote.
This is
It's
great.
so
I was like,
good.
oh, 10 out of 10.
I know, it's so good. Yeah, you
Just
still
speaking
get
of
to
the Hardy
see.
And speaking of the Hardy Boys, that beautiful Francie moment with the phone call. Yes, I am still living.
I'm so glad you were well fed, Allison.
Yes.
I really am. I'm happy for you. You deserve it.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Okay, but I didn't actually get to talk about this last week in Kapu Cave Week, which I don't know why I didn't think to bring it up, especially with Megan here. Well, Megan, if you're listening, I've got us covered. One of my favorite parts of Kapu Cave is when Nancy talks to Frank for the first time because she picks up the phone and Frank is like, hey, and she's like, oh, hi, sorry, I guess I thought Joe was gonna pick up. And I'm just like, yes! Her disappointment is evident. Sorry, just let me have this one, okay? Just let me have it.
You got it. No, you got it.
Me and Megan talked about it forever. We were just like, yes, little victories. Makes my life. Anyway. Oh, so what was up with that bit in Deadly Device where you wake up and there's just like someone banging on the door?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what was that? What was the point?
I'm also curious in general. Like, I feel like Nancy gets a lot of threats type of things in this game, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me if we're really to believe that Victor is not there until later on.
Exactly. It's so strange to me. And the fact that there's not even like a note or anything that's left, like, it's literally just a bang and then somebody runs away. Like, why? Has anybody like asked Her Interactive this? Because I know there was back in the day, people used to like email them with unanswered questions and they would respond, but I don't know. It just struck me as weird.
And yeah, I also felt that way too, because knowing kind of what the situation is, like when you wake up, you're like, I don't know who would have any motivation. I mean, I guess it is the break room, so it's possible that it's just I guess it would have been Ellie like coming down to grab something and then thinking she like maybe left her book in the locker and forgetting that Nancy's sleeping there. But
Still, yeah, it's so weird.
It's so bizarre, yeah.
She has the reaction that Nancy wishes she had. She's just like, this door's locked. Bang! They were like, was it supposed to be gray or something? But why? I don't
Maybe he's doing
understand.
nightly rounds,
Nightly rounds.
making
people
sure
off.
everyone's asleep.
Oh,
Or
speaking
gone.
of speaking of gray, I love Nancy's whole like, why are you working security if you have this advanced degree? And I'm just like, Nancy, please. Please. Please.
Nancy Tack Drew.
Because it's like when I was younger too, I was like, ooh, that's a good point. But now I'm just like, it's really, really sad.
I mean, is it any worse than tell me more about your dead mom?
Yeah, or why did you dedicate your life to being on trashy TV?
Mhm.
Truly one of the gems to come out of Shattered Medallion.
Yes.
I do love that quote. Something about this game, though, that has always been such a drag for me is how long the freaking elevator takes every
Yes.
single time. I'm just like, you couldn't have made this any quicker.
I'm glad you said that because I've been thinking about this elevator actually a lot because a lot of the times in the Nancy Drew games, I like having the elevator. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It makes me feel like I'm more immersed in this situation. And I think the conclusion I've come to for myself is that it doesn't add anything. Like going in that elevator and going up to a floor that looks essentially identical as the previous one, there's no like gain from the experience, and it's not really crucial like it is like in Treasure in Royal Tower where you have to climb through the shafts and whatnot. So it just feels like this unnecessary chunk of time that you have to go through.
Right. I totally agree with you there. I mean, I was gonna
I
bring
agree.
up. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree because like even in Danger on Deception Island when you have to walk through the caves and it takes forever. Like I feel like it's annoying, but it still adds like the atmosphere of the game, and so it like doesn't bother me as much. But the elevator doesn't add anything.
Yeah, and also in Deception Island, you only have to do that cutscene like what, twice?
Yeah.
Or something like that. And the elevator is just like constantly throughout the entire game of Deadly Device. But Maddie, you brought up the elevator in Royal Tower and how it actually served a purpose, right, to the mystery. But even apart from that, another reason why I don't mind the elevator in Royal Tower is because even traveling from like the basement level to the second floor, it is still a much quicker trip than this elevator in Deadly Device.
Yeah.
And it just feels like this one takes forever to do anything.
Yeah, for me, this one seems like a contrived way for her to try and make the scenery feel larger, like the universe to feel more expansive than it actually is.
Yeah.
I think I would have just much preferred to make it feel like I'm in a bigger laboratory area than having to continuously go up and down. And I also think having it where it's split like that too made the entire lab feel smaller to me as a whole because when your hallway is just like this tiny little circle. I think that also almost is limiting more to the whole setup to begin with.
Yeah, because it also begs the question of like, where the hell do you even enter from? Like, everything is all interconnected, and I don't see a front door.
Which is a constant Nancy Drew struggle.
Well, normally there's just no bathrooms and no kitchen.
I was gonna say we remedied that here, and she gave it 4 out of 5.
Like you can usually leave, you just, however, cannot use the restroom or make any food. But I absolutely love that post. Whoever made it, I'm so sorry, I can't remember, but the one that's like her interactive designs 4 rooms and is like, ooh, now that's a mansion.
Yes. So good.
Well, this game has made me crave gummy bears all week. All week.
I think that's such a cool puzzle.
Gummy bears?
Whoever gave that detailed description on the fingerprint.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was so fascinated reading that chart. Super, super cool stuff. I felt super bad, though. I had to keep making Ryan distract Victor. Like, normally I try to limit it because I try to maximize my progress as much as possible. But I was a hot mess this time around. I literally had to have her distract him like 6 times. I was like, I'm so sorry.
That's me every time I have to make her distract him. I'm like, no, I'm so sorry.
And she gives you a different response every time, too. She's like, fine. What were you going to say, Allison?
I also really love all of the Nikola Tesla stuff in this game.
Yes, me
So
too.
good.
Mm-hmm.
All for the historical subplots.
Always.
Yeah.
It just adds something, you know?
Totally.
And I mean, personally, and I'm probably in the minority with this, actually, I'm not really a big fan of like history. I'm not a history buff at all. But I absolutely love all of the historical backplots in this series because it literally just adds a layer of richness. I don't know. It's so good.
Yeah, I also think it's a really cool way to get kids interested in science too, talking about not only just kind of what he did contribute to the field, but also kind of like the drama behind everything and contextualizing those kind of discoveries as well, and even like talking to Joe about the death ray and whatnot, and realizing kind of all of those more outlandish things that he did too, which is really. I also think the game does a really interesting job of setting up kind of like a really ethical question as well throughout kind of the storyline about energy accessibility and kind of company and corporate distribution versus like human rights, like who has a right to kind of power and energy, which I wasn't expecting and I kind of hadn't thought about, I think, the last time I had played this. So hearing it come up, I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I've noticed that in a couple of the games that a lot of them seem very designed about these questions that are very relevant, which I also was like, wow, that's cool.
It definitely is.
I think the music in this game is really well done.
Unattestedly one of my favorite soundtracks.
Yes. And some of my favorite tracks are from this game. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like Blackmore Manor still has my favorite soundtrack, but this one is probably second.
Yeah, no, this one has some amazing ones.
Yeah, it really does. I love the one on the main screen for some reason. It just feels cool. But
It
there are a couple.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying there are a couple standouts on the soundtrack that I really, really like.
I was just gonna say the intro one always feels, for some reason, I don't know why, but it feels very science-y to me.
It does.
I think it's, I don't know, maybe like the deeper like doo-doo-doo.
Yes. Plus it has the really like electronically charged like
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's another thing that's cool with this game and educational is learning about all the different circuit types.
Learning about what?
Like the different the circuit types. Like, you know, the hardware. Like it shows you, you know, the diode versus the transistor, and there's like that book that kind of explains it all, which I also think is very cool.
Yeah, I think actually one of the reasons why I have such kind of positive opinions about this game is the most recent times I've replayed it as I was using it as an excuse to review my circuits for physics exams.
That's great.
Nice.
And you know, and doing it in a game format was a lot more enjoyable than the homework problems.
Yeah,
so that's probably why every time I was like, this is great, 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. It's really cool. And this is one of those games where I prefer playing this one on Junior because of some of the puzzles, like the circuit board at the end. My god. That circuit board at the end is literally so hard on Senior. Like, it's crazy. For me, I don't know why.
That really frustrates me is a lot of the timed puzzles that I think you have in this game.
That's true.
Yeah, like the circuit board, but also even just anytime you're doing anything within the security room too, and you have to worry about Gray coming back. Like for me, trying to do that color-coded puzzle, I was like at the last piece so many times, and then Gray would walk in and kick me out.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But you know what I always do with that color puzzle is I always freaking click the clear button instead of the send button.
Oh no.
No.
I've literally done that twice. Oh my god, it makes me so mad because I feel like the clear button is so much more prominent on the screen than the
It
submit
is.
button, and I just every time I click it without thinking about it. But I actually did that with the 3D component this time as well. I clicked the redo button when I was finished with it. I was like, "Are you serious?" Honestly, though, the audience kind of asked for the security booth thing because I remember that was during a time when Her Interactive was taking a lot of feedback, and a lot of what people were telling them was they liked it when they had to snoop quickly so they didn't get caught or whatever. Like I remember that being a running theme for a while as something that people wanted. So that's probably why that was there. I see both sides. I do actually enjoy it. I think it's realistic, and it kind of does add some excitement. It makes it feel more realistic to me. But I also see your point because I do also get anxious.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll decide that I'm like, I don't think I have enough time to do this, so I'll leave. But then it takes like 20 minutes for the alarm to stop, and I'm like, I could have done it. And instead I'm just
kept going
walking
back to
around
bed.
waiting. Sorry, what'd you say?
Oh no, I just would go back to bed and reset it that way over
Yeah,
and over again.
that's fair.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't. No.
I also see both sides of it because I do like that, especially when you're snooping. I think that's really exciting too, and you want to try and see like as much as you can go through in one moment. I think a great like way to blend those, because for me it's only when it's like puzzles, especially if you're on senior mode and you're just like, oh, there's so much that I gotta think through. I would prefer it if they had something kind of built in where they would pause that coming back in and then maybe like re-trigger it once the puzzle is complete. If you took a really long time to complete it, then maybe he walks in right after, and set up kind of a trigger that way, just so that you don't have to deal with the same trying to solve the same puzzle and over again, especially when it's something that's like kind of color based, and so you can't write it down anywhere really.
Yeah. Or I don't know, maybe even if they just made it so that like, well, never mind. That wouldn't work either. I was thinking like if they just made it so you didn't get kicked out necessarily, like he just comes in and scolds you, but then I was like, it still defeats the purpose because you're still gonna have to start over.
Yeah, I mean,
There's
just
a way
not
to-
having him maybe come in when that screen is on. Like maybe you say like if this is what's on the screen, he can't come in that case. It's like a if then situation. But as soon as you were to click away, like it could be triggered. I don't know. I don't know enough to to have a concrete.
It's a tough situation. Oh, and for some reason, I absolutely adore Zap Up. I've always enjoyed it. I have no clue why. Ever since the first time we ever saw it in Captive Curse, and again in this game, I just love it.
You love what? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Okay, I also didn't hear it, but I was worried it was me, and so I was going to make you repeat it all because it was really impassioned. I just don't know if you love.
I'm sorry. The Zap Up thing that you do to like unlock computers, I guess. Or like you have the grid and you have to like light up all of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that too.
It's like the most satisfying thing to me. Oh, ooh, I love it. I love it so much. It's so simple, but I just enjoy it. Also, after you look into the security video thing with Ryan, like you go to her and then you're in the booth and she's looking at the time code on the video or whatever. And you're left still in the booth after that. And I don't remember what it was, but there was something I actually needed to do in the security booth. So I was like, oh, good, it's daytime. Gray's not here. I'm just going to do it now. Can you guess what happened?
Did he appear?
He did appear. He kicked me out. I was like, come on! He's not supposed to be here.
He's got a motion sensor trigger hooked up. And as soon as he saw you, he was like, he's got in the car. Right. On over.
He got in the car. Although, yeah, I guess technically, aren't they supposed to be snowed in? So.
Oh, that's right.
So where is he going off to during the day?
Right.
Ooh.
Secretly making snowman out back. Snow angels.
Do they
It's
all
just
just live in like this communal attached home?
Outside igloos.
Allison, do you remember there was like a post back a long time ago in the Clue Crew where it was like, because there's like a flyer on one of the cork boards that's like trivia night, and the post was saying like for a group of people who claim to hate each other, they sure can't get enough of each other.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember that post now. And that's true.
Because there was just some kind of universal fascination with the dynamics of this group of scientists.
Mm-hmm.
I still think that Ellie and Mason are like, they're in a relationship. Like, they are.
Enemies
You
to
can't
lovers.
try to convince me otherwise. It is the ultimate friends to lovers. Or no, sorry, enemies to
I was
lovers.
to say, they're not friends.
They're not friends.
It was quite a big ship back in the day.
I was on board with that ship. That ship, and another enemies to lovers ship that I'm fully on board with is Alejandro and Joanna.
Yes.
I'm fully on that ship.
That's true. Oh man.
I was not expecting when I first got on Tumblr and was going through those tags when I played it to just find a bunch of that fan fiction and fan art. I was like, oh, but I'm here for it.
I'm here for it. It's pretty hot. I like it.
Oh, Joanna. Joanna. Another thing about this game that has always struck me a little odd is at the end, you know, when Nancy's like, oh man, all my electronics got zapped. But
yeah,
the key cards still work for the lab. How?
Doesn't make sense.
Right, like, I don't know. I guess it's because it was literally necessary or you couldn't continue the game, but like that would have been a nice detail.
Yeah.
Like one last little thing, you had to go and find another way in. Or have Ryan lock pick it for you like she did on the video.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. But I don't know if it's just me, but I felt like the entire ending to this game lasted forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just feel like there's so much you have to do. Because as soon as it gets to the point where you have to find the black light to get into the hatch, that's when I start to feel like, okay, I'm at the end. But yet, there's still so much left to do.
I can't contribute. Sorry. I don't really remember the end. Had enough detail. I will say that where I went to look at a walkthrough to see if I could reasonably finish it. And I was scrolling and I was like, I feel like I'm a decent way through. And then I was like, oh no, there's still like a huge portion left. So from that information, yes. No, I think you're right. I think and I think part of that has to do with the culprit reveal in this case.
Mm-hmm.
And because you are kind of working a little like, you know, how he comes in and like it's a different kind of situation. More of the kind of nuance of the story rather than again, kind of what we were talking about earlier, rather than just snooping on your own. It really depends on actions happening.
See, this is why I think it would have been cooler to have like the reveal be a little bit earlier, because then it could be a little bit more of like a race against the clock.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And like it could be a little bit more tense because even there's still a lot of the stuff left over, like a lot of like it's still continuing. It could have been more tense.
For sure. I would have been here for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's what we deserved. I don't know. I think this game is surprisingly long. Like, I think it lasts longer than you expect it to.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just do.
Yeah, I definitely think that just with all the different elements that are involved in it, with the cutscenes, the puzzles, the kind of required phone conversations that you need to have, and how they call you back. There's so much of it in with each of like the traditional aspects that are kind of a lot of the times involved in Nancy Drew game, and I think having it well developed on kind of all of those fronts to a portion is what adds to that and kind of makes it feel well rounded, even if it's still not like the best of the best. Really tell they put a lot of effort into each of those pieces of them.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, something else that was surprising to me is how many times you have to use like those binary number things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the red
Yeah.
and blue dots or whatever. Like that
Mhm.
shows up for 3 different puzzles. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I kept
It
thinking I
does
was
get a little
done with them.
exhausting.
Yeah, like thankfully I actually remembered that you kept using them, so I kept the picture on my phone. Because if you don't take reference photos of things you know are important on your
I
phone,
love that
what are you
you're
doing?
deleting the photos because my camera roll is definitely full of like 50 different Blackmore Manor pages right now that have yet to be tossed. Every single portrait is of the
Yep.
Pendulums is locked in all their family crests.
Oh, I love that. I should make like a Blackmore Manor pendulum themed lock screen for my phone.
Ooh,
I think
that'd
I'm
be
gonna
cool.
do it.
If you need reference photos, crappy ones from the iPhone,
You're
I
right.
got you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The solidarity. But yeah. We're starting to run dry, y'all.
I know it.
I know.
The well is drying out. Well, was there anything Tumblr related you guys wanted to talk about this week?
I loved It's Locked Charmstrong's comment, I think, to your post, Katie, about Mason's working at a blank computer screen. And she
Yes.
mentioned it being like the brightness down and like one of the special screen protectors
Yeah.
because it's such on brand for him.
Yes.
It's so completely true.
Yeah.
Also,
Amazing.
I really appreciate the fact that in this game, Nancy is like, oh yeah, I'm just here to, research for a potential investor. And then, like, the very first thing she does, she's like, hi, I'm Nancy. Who do you think would want to kill Nico? It's like,
Yeah,
there's
so true.
no transition period. There's no segue. She's
Still
just
the
like,
no tact.
just jumping right in. Like, these people
Yeah.
should be suspicious as hell.
I mean, here's the thing. She even like could just easily frame it and say something to the effect of, "I'm here for a potential buyer, but they're nervous about kind of the dynamics of the workforce given the most recent incidents."
Exactly.
But no, Nancy No Track Drew is just like, "Yeah, so tell me about that guy who got killed."
Yeah, dude.
For the investors, casual.
Yeah. They want to know.
I had that exact same thought, Maddie. I was just like, you could really easily explain this away. Like,
Mhm.
it would actually be so easy to just toss one line out there about that, Like, my investor's
Yeah.
just worried since there was a murder, so do you mind? I know you've been asked a lot of questions by the police, but do you mind if I kind of get some information to take down? Like, it would be so easy, but she's just like, nope. Who do you think killed Nico?
Yeah, exactly. It would have also been great if in this game or in any of the other games where Nancy's undercover, if they had her actually ask questions that were related to her cover. Like, just kind of throw in other stuff. That could be kind of a
Right.
fun thing. Yeah, but they don't take advantage of that. It's just, let's talk about the murder.
Yeah, I would have really greatly appreciated that, actually, because it would have added a lot of believability, which I'm always here for.
Yeah, also, too, if they wanted to have kind of two different ways of playing it, of whether or not you're going to be open and honest, like when Ryan kind of confronts you, but there's no real repercussions depending on, which initial answer you give to whether or not you're really here as an investor or whatnot. But you could have taken that totally farther with it as well with the other characters, too, which could have been interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And since this is the week of Deadly Device, I do just want to give a shout out to probably my favorite indoor location / room that has ever existed in the series, which is Nico's study. It is so gorgeous, and I'm literally obsessed with it. Like, I want this room in my future home with the blue world wallpaper.
Yes.
And all of the trinkets. Ugh, it's so great. Going through my old Deadly Device tag. Have you guys ever gotten the Mason quote where you ask him about Victor? And Mason is like, He's bald, but not sensitive about it. He's one of the good ones.
Yes.
So good.
More representation for National is Beautiful Day.
Yeah, why did they leave Victor out? It's just because he was a cold-blooded murderer?
I'd really like to make a calendar with all of the ridiculous holidays that her has promoted over the years.
Maddie, please do it.
It would be great.
So,
I don't have the emails. I delete them too quickly.
so their ridiculous marketing strategy cracks me up because my first year of teaching, I like sectioned off like the whiteboard in like different parts, like where it could be like, standard, objective, homework, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Well, I wanted to do something that was also kind of fun and changed like frequently outside of just the date. And so I had one section where it was like, holiday of, today's holiday. And I would write in the random stupid holidays like National Ball Day. And like, I just did that as something quirky and fun. And my kids would be like, oh, that's funny. Today's like, whatever. And when they started doing that marketing strategy, I was dying laughing. And they probably did this well before my first year of teaching, but I didn't recognize it. And it's just so funny to be like, nah, I know all those stupid holidays.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
I think one of my all-time favorite sales that Her Interactive ever did was their big Valentine's Day sale was the game Labyrinth of Lies.
Yes.
Oh my god, it's just so funny to me. Like, what are you trying to say, Her? So funny.
I mean, to be fair, what else could they do, I guess? You know what? They could have spun the chocolates of Stay Tuned for Danger. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, true.
No, they were saving that for National Chocolate Day.
True.
I just love how like enthusiastic they are. With
I know.
the like really big lettering and everything.
I know, they're like, we're selling something great.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is something that we haven't even done since the start of this podcast, for which I apologize, but I wanted to give a shout out to It's Locked Armstrong, Abby, for coming up with the idea to do the Clue Crew playthrough in the first place.
Yes.
Yes.
Honestly, like, this has been incredible for bringing the whole community together. It's such a unifying, fun experience, and I'm so grateful for it. This podcast wouldn't exist. My relationships with so many of you guys wouldn't exist. Everything about like what is going on in the Clue Crew right now is partially due to Abby's idea in the first place. So thank you so much, Abby. We love you and we appreciate you so much. And I'm so happy that you're a part of this fandom.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I want to give another shout out as well to all of our talented artists in the fandom who've really, really been coming in hot these last couple weeks. Bringing the content. Absolutely.
I agree because I cannot make a meme to save my life.
Yeah, and especially this week too, seeing all of the old throwback posts has also been great. Especially for me as someone who didn't experience them in the moment, and just like laughing hilariously at some of them are just so great.
Yeah, so you know what? Thank you as well to Leva or, Nancy the Drew for bringing back the indie throwbacks, because it's so fun for the newer members because they're getting, you guys are getting to see all these posts that you may have missed out on. Yes, they're so good. And then for those of us like me and Allison who've been here, we're getting to like relive them, and it's reigniting all of our previous jokes. It's so much fun for everybody.
Yeah. It's definitely really felt like a whole little online.
I'm sorry. Allison, I just saw the post that you reblogged.
Wait, which one?
Victor killed Nico! Victor killed Nico! Oh my god, I'm dead. So good. I don't know what it is about it. Anyway. lot of good posts for this game as well.
Side note, the fact that this acronym is DED always makes me think that when someone is hashtagging it, they thinking it's hilarious.
Yes.
I know, right?
Dead.
And it's always in all caps. And I'm like, oh, they also thought that was really funny. And then I'm like, oh no, never mind. That's the acronym.
Right.
So I brought one thing back on the indie throwbacks because everyone needs to be exposed to
Oh
this
my dear God. No.
This is almost as top tier as Nancy Bucket shit.
Oh my God. This was everything. This was literally everything.
I'm terrified to ask.
One of my
This feels
favorite
forbidden
inside jokes.
information.
Oh my God. I was like, why is no one bringing this back? It deserves being brought back.
I completely forgot about it.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh my God. Who did this post originally?
I don't remember.
Let's see.
That wasn't the first one, was it?
Oh, this was Sunny June was here.
But was that the first post? Maybe it was. I don't know.
I mean,
but,
I actually only got
good.
78 notes, which is surprising.
That's true. That is surprising.
I just keep laughing. I've been laughing all day about whoa, how's she talking inside a box?
Oh yeah, that's another classic.
Like, I just keep thinking about it. I'm like, I start crying. I'm laughing so hard. This expression is so great.
Yes. Oh, this wasn't the original post.
What was the OG post?
I don't know.
I can't find any other tag.
I know.
There's only 3 things on that tag.
Because this was apparently this was just somebody reposting it. Because one of literally the first reblog of this post was somebody saying it's back.
Oh, I gotta know.
Well, it's okay. As long as we have it immortalized, we're good.
It's too good.
Bob the Sex Horse. I'm done. Oh God.
Is there a particular reason?
I have no idea.
I don't know. What was the reason? Oh my God. Filing through the archives.
Allison, I honestly feel like you were a lot more deeply involved in the fandom than I was back then.
I probably was.
Like, I got the post, but I didn't really talk to anybody back in the day.
I did, but I don't remember. I don't remember how it started. I need to scroll through the archives to find out.
Anyway, it was truly a classic.
It was a classic.
By the way, for those of you listening, I already pasted some screenshots of posts on screen, so if you want to see them, rewind.
Yes.
But yeah, so many timeless good jokes in the Clue Crew. Allison, do you remember the Karen Plays Nancy Drew post?
Of course. Classic.
Of course. The post about Tyler takes her stance on segregation too far.
Yes. Oh, so funny. Ugh, these throwbacks are so golden.
All right. So, what are your guys' final thoughts on Deadly Device?
I would say great music, good atmosphere. Storyline is good, but it's not like a classic, 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think it's a really solid game overall. I like a lot of the elements. I think the setting makes it feel very realistic, and it's really well integrated in a lot of facts. And I also just hate the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. We're pretty much unanimously in agreement. I think it's a really good game. I think it's a pretty strong entry into the series. I like that it feels very authentic and investigative as far as, being involved in a murder investigation. Yeah, so I think it's good. It's also very educational. Lots of good puzzles that are well integrated, and you kind of learn while you solve them. So that's always fun. But yeah, as far as like excitement, it's not the most exciting game for me. The culprit reveal was kind of obvious. And there's some things about it that are tedious, such as the elevator. So, not one of my favorites either, but definitely a good one. All right, cool.
Okay.
That's it. I guess we'll wrap up here, everybody. Thank you for joining us this week once again, as always. And thank you to Allison and Maddie for chatting with me about the games. And
thank you.
we will be next week. We will be back next week to talk about Secrets Can Kill. Are you guys doing the remaster or the original?
I'm going to be doing the remastered.
I am as well.
I'm probably going to do the remaster, but part of me is like, maybe I should just go disc switching for a while. Partially because it's already downloaded on my computer.
Oh,
Because
nice.
I just recently replayed it, and for some reason my computer is really struggling with any of the newer games. It's like, we can run that ancient game from the 90s, no problem. So we'll see.
We'll see, right?
Yeah.
That's fair. Hey, if you do end up doing the original, then that's even better, because we'll have all perspectives.
It's true.
From both versions of the game, so... I don't know. I'm probably in the minority, but I actually prefer the remaster. I actually think it's a lot of fun.
There are definitely elements to this game, like to Secrets Can Kill, that I actually really enjoy. So I am excited to chat about that.
Oh yeah, me too, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really cool game, and I think a lot of the complaints are more, where it was the first one, and so I think that has a lot to do with it. But there's a lot of like really interesting and unique things that I just think are so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I like how it goes so hardcore.
I know the post I saw earlier that was like, yeah, they just came out swinging. They were like, oh, fun mystery for girls, murder mystery.
Yeah.
Maggie Gazer was like, go big or go home. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, so we'll be talking about that next week. So yeah, we'll see you guys then. Have a good night,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.